Lift every voice and singers heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening sky should resound, rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. March on till victory is won. Don't need the road we trust to chase the rock out in the days when hope unborn has died, yet with a steady beat as we come through the place our Father's side. We have come over a way where sins have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughter, out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, like gleam among my star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, Thou who hast by Thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Bless our feet, straight from the places, our God, where we met Thee. Bless our hearts, drunk of the wine of the world, we forget Thee. Shadow beneath Thy hand, may we forever stand. Our God, true to our native land, true to our native land.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Beautiful. We'd like to welcome our distinguished panelists, guests, presenters, and most of all of our friends, family members, colleagues, guests, to join us on this wonderful day as we celebrate this Express Yourself, Beautiful Black Man. First time in recognition of the African American Mental Health Awareness Week. A lot of work and effort's been put into this. I don't know about y'all, but I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited to be involved with this. It is a culmination of years of doing racial and ethnic disparities work around mental health, which began for many of us probably on this Zoom call today back in, '07, '08, for some of us OGs and new emerging leaders as well. This is a phenomenal, point in time, a divine moment. I'm very excited to see, so many diverse folks that I know, some I don't know, but in our world, we're all brothers and sisters.
Mhm.
Can I get an amen to that? We all brothers and sisters.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
And it's about healing. It's about faith. It's about taking care of ourselves and each other. It's about collaborating beyond ourselves so that we can be spiritually, physically, mentally, socially well, healthy, prosperous. And so this topic speaks to the critical discourse on Black men. And so with that in mind, my name is Jim Gilmer. I've been involved with mental health advocacy since many of you probably just came into the world, but a long, long time. I've worked with the African American Health Institute of San Bernardino County. I'm a former co-chair of the California Multicultural Mental Health Coalition under the Reducing Disparities Initiative. So I kind of cut my teeth on doing advocacy for certainly ourselves and people of color. But with that in mind, I want to pass it on to the queen of the day, Miss Linda Hart, who had the foresight, prophetic vision to initiate this effort. Let me give you just a brief description of this wonderful lady whom I've been blessed to know for a few years now. Always has ideas, always thinking about others, always thinking about trying to do the right thing. Linda Hart, mother of three, grandmother of three. So we give you the number 33. How about that? Founder and executive director of the Mental Health Advocate for African American Health Coalition and consumer family member for over 15 years. She's trained, 40, 50 more Black brothers and sisters to become certified community mental health outreach workers, doing the groundwork, trench work of reaching folks so that they can get better, get well, get healthy, help other individuals, have been involved assisting thousands of individuals. So with that in mind, she created the organization in 2011 through legislation, AB 150, with the help of former Congresswoman Carter, signed by the California State Governor to recognize the second week, which we are in, the second week in February, as this African American Mental Health Awareness Week. Ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you. Go ahead, clap your hands. Miss Linda Hart, you got it. Please.
Thank you. The African American, first of all, Health Coalition, want to give a special shout out to the University Health Systems, Tandra Hill, Celine Carteris, and Nisha Elliott, and the many others on staff who have helped us put this together. And we also want to thank our wonderful hosts and presenters and our guest speaker. Our purpose, the next slide. Our purpose is to continue the mission of advocacy toward positive change in mental health, eliminating barriers to care, creating legislation, and promoting activities and developing programs. To provide comprehensive approaches to health disparities and stigmas for individuals and families to live their best. So with all ado, the next slide, please. We want to take this time out and recognition and proclaim the second week of February as African American Mental Health Week. And again, we want to thank you all who have joined us today in this momentous event. Look forward to others in the future to come. We will be hosting other events highlighting the health disparity among African Americans, and to better provide services and quality of life in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Linda, thank you so much. I think at this time you're going to have Tony Robinson give an update on cultural competency. Is that correct?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Tony Robinson, and I am the Cultural Competency and Innovation Manager for Riverside University Health System Behavioral Health. And I've been in this position for 5 months. It'll be 6 months at the end of this month. But what I want to mention is that we are going through some changes in cultural competency. We're looking at getting more feedback from the community, and not only making that feedback our goals for the year, but actually implementing that feedback in our service delivery system here in Riverside County when it comes to behavioral health. And so I mentioned that in one of my first cultural competency meetings, and I mentioned that in our African American Family Wellness Advisory Group. And Linda was on it. I said it, and here we are today. She jumped on it, said this is what, because I said one of the things that we wanted to do was be more involved with our community promoters. We wanted to link with them. They already have the resources. They're already doing the groundwork. They already know the people. We don't need to duplicate efforts, but let's work with people we already know and have in place and be able to go out into the community that way. And she was like, okay. And so she was like, this is what I want to do. This is my vision. This is what I have in mind. And then we were able to have Tandra and Selene from our team work with her to help put this on and get all the presenters and everything. And so I just want to say, yes, yes, yes. This is exactly what I was talking about when I said we wanted this community input. This is exactly what I wanted when I took this position. This is like a dream come true. Like I said, it's not even been 6 months that I've been on board, and it's already a major transformation. So I just want to thank everyone for that. Thank you all for being here. We have been putting on events as a culture. Like I said, again, I've only been here almost 6 months, but Cultural Competency puts on events throughout the year. I'm looking at the participant number at 53. We have not had that. So I want to say thank you. I'm very excited. I'm very happy, and I just can't wait for this presentation to get started. So again, there's going to be some major changes in cultural competency in Riverside County, and this is a first step forward in the right direction. So I appreciate you all being here.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Mm-hmm.
Moving right along, we're going to move into our first program activity, which is a panel.
Oh, Jim, if I may, one of our presenters have to leave early.
Okay.
So we're going to move him up before, and that would be James. So if you can introduce him.
Brother James. Okay. This is
James Wood. Mm-hmm.
Okay. James Woods, correct?
That's it.
Yes, that's it.
James, that yoga dude Woods?
Yes,
that's what the bio says. Is that correct? Am I on point there?
No, that's good. You did a great job.
Okay. James has a passion for sharing the tools he has learned on his personal journey to wellness, has a degree in marriage and family therapy, registered yoga teacher, speaker, mentor, author. As president of Feel Free to Feel Free, a health and wellness organization that provides wellness and programs and services, James directs programming, speaks, trains, holds workshops, self-care, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, and wellness. Finally, Timmy Tut is the first book from James that fulfills his passion of sharing wellness and tools. So why don't we, without further ado, because I know you're on a tight schedule and you can talk about yourself better than I can, go for it, brother. You're up.
Thank you. I really appreciate the introduction. And thank you to Linda, and thank you to Tony, and thank you to Tandra. Whenever you get a collection of brothers together, you know it's some beautiful Black women behind that. Always the power right there. And shout out to all my brothers who are here on the panel with me. I appreciate being on here. Looks like I'm about the oldest one on here, so I got some season and some education for y'all, and I appreciate being on here. Like Mr. Jim said, my name is James Dat Yoga Dude Woods, and they call me Dat Yoga Dude because that's what the kids call me. I will come on campuses, I'm coming into homes, I'm coming into communities, and they will forget that my name is James, but they always remember that I was that yoga dude because I did the yoga. Now, the first question they will always ask me is, how did you get into yoga? So I got into yoga because of the work that I was doing in the community. As a therapist, as a mentor, working in group homes, working with organizations with youth who are at risk, and especially us, African-American boys. They will always put me in the homes, put me in the juvenile system with the boys who look like us, who are going through some difficult struggles and situations. And I gladly did it. It's been my life's work. It's been who I am, working with rites of passage programs and all the stuff that we know and familiar with. We're putting in the work to make sure that we have an equitable shot at just living good and growing into healthy and strong men. So I'm doing this work. I'm enjoying this work. I got my marriage and family therapist degree. That means I make money to be able to sit there and listen to people. I'm doing it. I went to Xavier University of Louisiana, the prominent historically Black college. If you don't know, now you know. I did all the things I was supposed to do to be able to take care of the community that I loved and I lived within. I got to a point finally where I got burnt out. And if you don't know what burnout was that feeling of, I love this job, I love this work, but today and the next day and the other day after, I just have been struggling. I got to this point where I was serving and doing the things that I love to do, but my own work brought me to my own stress and anxiety and depression and anxiety and all the things that I was trying to help other people with, I started to face. But luckily, I had a supervisor. Now, this was a supervisor. We all have supervisors at work that was just always cool. And she was like, yo, you're an athlete. You went to Centennial High School, played football, as y'all can tell, still got the physique. Why don't you go do some yoga? And I'm like, yoga? Excuse me. And she was a white lady. If you didn't know, black men don't do yoga. So I had to let her know. I thought I had to let her know. But I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. I'll give it a try. I'll check it out. So I go into the yoga studio and I step in there. It's kind of musty in here, a little foggy in here. And I roll out my little mat and everything. I look around and I see that I am probably the youngest by about 20 years and the only male in there. What is this going to be? I get to my mat. Everything's nice and cool. We're breathing and stuff. I'm doing all the work and the activities. And then finally, we get to this move called the downward facing dog. And I'm sweating and shaking and looking around at these old ladies and they just breathing through it, making it look easy. And then I finally decide to take a breath. And at the end of the class, when we lay out, we relax, we chill, all that stress, that anxiety, that depression that I had just from fighting against the system, from fighting for equality, fighting for justice, doing what's right for our community, it took a break just for that moment where I was able to relax and breathe. So I decided that I wanted to incorporate into the work that I do and the person that I am. We know about the struggle, but what do we know about the healing parts of it? About being full and being a human, being whole, especially as Black men. A lot of our emotions were left in childhood with the rest of the pain and the trauma that we've endured. Becoming a man, I thought, was becoming harder, becoming stronger, becoming something that left behind the healing. But it's been my purpose and my mission to bring the healing to the youth that we work with today. I want y'all to do me a favor, please. I really appreciate it. If y'all can just sit up nice and tall, sit up with that good posture, that Sunday school posture, that police right next to you posture, sit up nice and tall. And we're gonna do just take 3 deep breaths. We're gonna breathe in and out of our nose. We're gonna let our shoulders relax. You might even allow your eyes to close and just feel safe wherever you are. And we're gonna breathe down deep into our bellies, past the throat, past the lungs, past the diaphragm, deep into our bellies, our core, our soul, our spirit, the thing that connects us to us. On the count of 3, we're going to take 3 deep breaths. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in and breathe out. Good. Relax the face, relax the neck. Breathe in and breathe out. Relax the chest, relax the hands, the arms. Breathe in and breathe out. Brothers, if we continue to connect and to evolve, it's important that we continue to connect with ourselves on a level deeper than policy, on a level deeper than systemic justice, on a level that is as deep as we are to our root, to our core, on a level that we continue to participate within our community. I breathe alone, but I breathe deeper when I breathe with y'all. That connection that we have as men deepens as we all become evolving men of color. So just take a second to be conscious of your breath during the day when you're fighting the fight. Be conscious of your breath during the day when you're loving, when you're caring, when you're sharing and connecting with the people that you are connected with. So I just hope y'all can take away just a breath whenever you're feeling stressed out, whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, whenever you're feeling the pressures of just being you. Just breathe and connect back with yourself. And that's my message as that yoga dude. And as always, namaste and feel free to feel free. I thank y'all so much. Peace, peace, peace. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry I have to go now. Y'all can check me out at that yoga dude on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Thatyogadude.com is the website. We do wellness and social emotional learning for youth and adults. Thank you so much, Miss Linda and Tondra, so much for having me. I appreciate y'all. I love this community, RU Riverside University. I just love Riverside and what y'all have done for me. So thank y'all so much and peace.
Thank you, James.
Wonderful,
we love
wonderful,
you, James,
wonderful.
at Riverside University Health System. We love James.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. So Linda, now we're moving back to the panel, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we're going to invite our panelists forward, and we have 4 distinguished guests. We'll start first of all, Mr. Tyrone Thompson. I'll briefly describe a little bit about his background. Out of Riverside, we understand, also known as comedian Mac Rome, born and raised in Riverside, and has basically become a comedian with many followers, audience members. He's done a lot of various comic show sets. He's a Leo with his skills, has been booked in some of the most famous comedy rooms throughout SoCal: Levity Live, the Philadelphia Punchline, Stand Up Live Phoenix, Ontario Improv, LA Comedy Union, Tempe Improv, Arizona. And his honors and credits go far beyond what I can say in just a few minutes. One thing I think is of interest, he's done the Boneyard TV show, the Mac Rome TV show, and he's going to be one of our distinguished panelists today. So welcome, Brother Tyrone.
Hey, thank you for that introduction. Thank you guys for having me.
Certainly, certainly. Another panelist we have is someone I know, Bruce Wheatley, and I know the work of Bruce. How you doing, brother? And Bruce is CEO of Wheatley Institute. Bruce has worked with students attending K through 12 schools diagnosed with mental health disorders and behavioral health issues. Has done a lot for social justice and health and education. Contributes a lot to system thinking to mitigate barriers, sustaining health and education, particularly targeting vulnerable communities. And we're excited to have this creative innovator, system architect, a great brother that I've been, working with off and on for many, many years. Bruce, welcome to the panel.
Thank you, Jim. Good to hear you. See you.
Yes, and we have also Martina Sellers. And let me improv here a little bit. Martinez has a wide array of background. This is what I got from Facebook. University of Phoenix, class of 2014, is a MFT, marriage and family therapist, adolescent counseling, Golden Gate Baptist Theological Seminary. So the brother knows the word up and down, in and out. Faith without works is dead. I won't get you preaching here, but I know where you're coming from. And also has a master's in theology, has done some legal studies, and most importantly, from Irvine High School. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Welcome, welcome, Brother Sellers.
Thank you.
Yes, and Jerome Clark, I did not have a bio for, so if you're on, can you just say a little bit about yourself?
Yes, how you guys doing? My name is Jerome Clark. I am a mental health clinician, educator, and advocate. I am the owner of WellWorks 80, where I promote mental health education, advocacy, and do different presentations and develop mental health content. I've been in the mental health field for about 17 years now, and I'm in pursuit of my marriage and family therapist license, and I'm grateful to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. I like your photos that you take, by the way. I did see those. Very erect posture, great brother. So you brothers have a panel, and why don't you just start off? I think Tyrone is first, and Jerome, and you guys go ahead and do your thing.
Okay, well, I guess one thing I wanted to make a hit on, I'm also diagnosed with PTSD, major depression, and stuff like that. And I didn't get any help. I got that when I was in the military. I'm a veteran, a Navy veteran from Desert Storm. And I went a good 23 years without seeking services or help. When I got out of the military, they didn't send us to a mental health clinic to be checked out or anything like that. And it went all that time. And I finally found the resources that I need with a lot of help from Lucretia Dowdy over at Lou Productions. And she always pointed me in the right direction. But when I found those resources and I went into rehabilitation programs and everything, there was a lot of veterans that I had known on the street, and they didn't know anything about the services that they could receive at the VA. And so I always make it, a point to mention there's a veteran out there right now, and you're suffering and you're hurting, and you may even be feeling like committing suicide. There's a 1-800 number to call the VA. Just pick up the phone, do it on the internet, just reach out. Because a lot of times there's a stigma that comes along with mental health. If you have an issue like depression or PTSD, you don't want to admit to nobody. You're a veteran, you're probably a war veteran, and you don't want people to think of you as being weak. But that's not weakness, brother. As a matter of fact, it's being strong for so long that you need a little bit of help. And you need to be able and open enough to get that help. And so I just encourage everybody, if you're a veteran or veterans out there and you see that they have a drinking problem or drug problem, maybe they don't know about the resources that are available to them. And so that's really what I wanted to say today on this panel. If there's anybody out there who can hear my voice and you're a veteran, go in. They have the best rehabilitation program. You're going to meet, if you smoke cigarettes, they got the lady who invented the smoking cessation program up there. The lady who wrote the book, invented the patches. Whatever you need, there's resources there to help you. I just wanted to say that, especially in Riverside and San Bernardino County, there's not a lot of us Black vets out here, but the ones that are out here, a lot of us are lost. And you will run into them in a homeless encampment, and it'll be a veteran in there, somebody who served our country. So I just, that's what I wanted to say.
Great. Thank you, brother. Why don't we have Jerome? You want to go there? Jerome?
Yeah, sure. How you guys doing again? My name is Jerome Clark, as I previously stated. And my passion is and has always been helping Black families and helping Black children. An event like this dedicated toward Black men is especially essential in these times. My mission is to simply break the stigma of mental illness and seeking mental health services in the Black community. Black men are often socialized as to not cry or not show emotion or not want to ask for help or not know how to seek those services. And I believe that's part of my mission through my company, Well Works 80. One of the things that I promote is advocacy. And advocacy is simply asking about how to go about getting help. Maybe you or someone does not know how to seek services, or may not even be aware that they are in need of services. Maybe they're experiencing something. So it's very important that if you do have people in your circle of friends or family members who are in the field of service, that you ask them, what services can I seek out as far as mental health for myself or another family member? There's nothing wrong with getting help. And one thing that we should not do as a people, if we are suffering with anxiety, depression, or maybe even at the risk of suicide, is not suffer in silence. That's one of the most important things that we can do as a people, is to get help. And we as Black male therapists and Black clinicians, we need to continue to do the work to let the world know that we're here, and let the brothers that are in need know that we are here to support them and support one another. An event like this, I've never been to an event like this before, so this is a joy to me. Thank you, Linda, so much for allowing me to be here. And Lou Dowdy, thank you so much as well. And it's just a joy to be here. And there are many reasons that Black men don't seek services. As I said before, the stigma that's associated with Black men. Oh, if we show emotion or if we say we're in need, that means that we're weak. And that's not the case. One of the things that you can do to show that you're strong is ask for help and admit to yourself, like, hey, maybe I need to go talk to somebody. Maybe I need to sit down for a second. There's a lot going on with me that I don't understand emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And there are different resources out there that we can seek. And being resourceful and being helpful is a part of the nature of the Black community. You know, we're all connected, you know, and it's the thing to whereas we have to lean on each other. And I was on a matter of fact, I was on Brother Martinez's show last night, and there was a younger clinician that was on with us too. And Martinez told the clinician that we're gonna do everything that we can to support him to get him licensed, even if we have to drag him across the licensure line. And that's how we have to be with our young brothers. We have to pick each other up. We have to say, hey, brother, I see you may be in a little bit of trouble or maybe having a problem with something. How can I help you? So that's the most important thing. And that's my mission, to help Black families, help Black children, and help Black men.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, brother. Appreciate that. Brother Bruce Wheatley.
Thank you. Well, the spirit of me greets the spirit of each of you. Happy Mental Health Awareness Week. Thank you, Linda, for being such a trailblazer. Tony, for your leadership around reorganizing cultural competency. And Jim, what a pleasure to see you. I wasn't expecting to hear your voice today, but welcome and thank you. I want to quickly give a couple disclaimers so you have some sense of who I am. But first, I speak as a matter of fact, because what is really the best case solution. Two, I have to generalize because folk become sometimes defensive, putting their best effort forth with little avail. And three, as a former professional athlete, I speak with the tone as if it's halftime and Black folk are losing, and that's unacceptable. So when I got into the game, it was 1998 when I recognized young people were being inappropriately diagnosed with mental disorders who otherwise had behavioral issues. And so as an athlete, I couldn't go back and hang out with my guys in the summer and, hey, what you up to, man? We misdiagnosing kids. What else? So I decided I was going to take a different approach with this. And so just to bring some awareness, in 2004, over 50% of California voters approved the Mental Health Service Act, twice in 17 years. The Mental Health Service Act taxes the wealthy 1% of their income over $1 million. This act has generated over $25 billion in that 17 years. And no county serves more than 15% of its population, and trauma is a public health issue of our lifetime. Now, I don't know about you, but as I said, 50 million Californians here. What could you have done with $1 million a year over the last 17 years? And I know you're thinking about what you're going to do with your $1,200 stimulus when you get it, but imagine $1 million. Now, as far-fetched as that sounds, these mental health disparities, health and education disparities have increased over that time and now exacerbated by COVID-19. To add insult to injury, there are a great number of Black athletes and entertainers of significant wealth who are contributing to that act, and we are receiving little to nothing. I've seen everybody and watched closely eat off this money. So the question becomes, how is it that Black people speak passionately about systems change, but take no action towards that end? The term is oftentimes ambiguous without explanation. So it begs the question, what is a system? A system is a set of two or more elements, parts, components, or departments that can be taken apart to seek understanding. Let me give you an example of system thinking. If you give a child an object, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to take it apart. They're going to seek understanding of the function of each element and its relationship to the whole, right? So when we look at these systems, for instance, Health and Human Services is comprised of health, mental health, public health, children and family services, probation, and public social services. It's a system. K through 12 is a two-component system focused on management and instruction. Your body is a system comprised of the liver, heart, lungs, pancreas, brain. If you take your brain out and put it on the table, it's not going to function. It's no longer part of that system. So if it's separated from the whole system, there's a malfunction. I make this point because when we talk about the social determinants of health, they center on genetics, behavior, environment, physical influence, medical care, social factors. Each of these are interconnected, yet our Health and Human Services and K through 12 systems operate in relative isolation of one another, leaving managers of the day attempting to accomplish independently that which must be accomplished through synthesis, which is a practice of systems thinking. So I borrow this term from Peter Sinjay, who I've researched and studied quite extensively. Systems thinking is a group of people working together to continue working to refine their awareness around what they want to create, how they interact with one another, and how they see or imagine the larger system, and in this case, benefiting society. So it's based on this systems thinking that the Wheatley Institute has developed a strategic community planning process to connect health and education systems with an intended aim to integrate primary and behavioral health care to result a branded and operationalized behavioral health care medical system. This is possible. It's in alignment with the Affordable Care Act. And most counties has a mission to integrate both systems, and we see it playing out with co-located services, which is an increased cost, which is when you ask, where's that 25 billion? We're creating subsystems within the system. This process will simultaneously transition K through 12 education from a two-component to a three-component system, establishing a primary preventive trauma-informed behavioral health care medical system component to function equitably with the current management and instruction framework. Now, I don't know about you. Are y'all still waiting on Superman? Like we still waiting on God to return? Because let me tell you, the Spirit of God is in each one of us. And it's when we come together to work collaboratively, you will see the Superman that everybody know we are. This process will allow our stakeholders to continue to shift the teaching and learning paradigm from standardized to personalized instruction, resulting in a student, patient, and family-centered community school network. You know, we're talking about how a lot of young people are absent from K through 12 who are already underperforming. Black kids in California are underperforming, slightly above those with disabilities. Standardized instruction is the effort of the day, which is essentially hoarding kids through from grade to grade. Personalized instruction will meet those kids where they are. So often confronted as African Americans with counterproductive competition amongst one another, we cannot continue to fall victim to structural racism that has turned us into crabs in a barrel. Either we become today's leaders or remain slaves to these systems. If you'd like more information on system thinking, I'm forming a collaborative. You can always email info@Wheatley Institute, put your profession in the subject line, or just I want to win. So as we reach a critical mass, we can start to reach out and bring us together, because cultural competency will never have any merit if we don't have our voice contributing to the way we want this system to pan out. Amen. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Brother Martinez, go ahead and The cleanup act is here now. Come on, brother.
I guess so, y'all. That's a hard one to follow. After that, baby, he just laid the foundation with that. But I'm so glad to be here. First, I feel like I'm in church. First, giving honor to God.
Yes.
Well, I want to thank definitely Linda Hart for this amazing invitation. Tony Robinson, thank you for your leadership with cultural competency as it pertains to UCR and Riverside County. Definitely Lou Dowdy and Nisha Elliott, thank you so much for your friendship, your support, and always pushing me. And to our moderator, Jim Gilmore himself, thank you as well. Again, my name is Martina Sellers, and I am the founder and developer of Marcel Consulting and Mental Health Services. We are just a very new organization here in our corporate offices in Ontario, but we also have recently now have a additional office in Riverside County, right on Lime Street and University, right behind Heroes right there. So we're so excited to be in there. We are one of the lead agencies as we partner with DPSS for all of those for the entire county, for those children who have been referred and about to be removed from the home. So we have the contract with them with partnering so that children can be reunited. I got into this because, like so many of you, and I feel like I'm preaching to the choir with that, we know that there is a disparity in our community as it pertains to mental health services. And especially when we talk about Black men. If nothing else, 2020, even though we said that was a year of clear vision, we got clear vision, but many of us didn't like the vision that we got. We already knew that there was a huge disparity as it became to that there was already a target and mark on the backs of Black men and women across this nation. However, that target got larger in 2020 and the disparity got greater and the gulf got wider. And therefore, the need for our services is essential. I'm like my brother who says, listen, we're at halftime. I feel we're in the fourth quarter and it's time to do a Hail Mary and do this final thing so we can win the Super Bowl of life so that the Black man and the Black woman can come up to our rightful places. As a mental health provider across this nation, I realize that I'm in the 2% of those that do this work that we do, but we are in the greater percentile of the need for it. Why? Because we don't have access to it. Why? Because we don't understand it. Why? Because we are afraid of it. I did this. I'm getting excited. I feel like I'm in church, y'all. I'm trying to pace myself.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead. Do your thing. Do your thing. Do your thing.
With that, growing up in a domestic violent household for 16 years, I understand what PTSD is. I understand what dilemma is. I understand what not having support is because we came from a middle-class family and my father made great money and we lived on the west end of town and not on the east end of town. And that my grandmother was a mother of the church and that my father, we were avid tithe payers, but my pastor did not believe, even though he knew my father was beating us up. They said he was a good man. We needed help. And my passion has been since then that I was going to help every child, every man, whatever that I could to change the narrative in our communities. I do a Facebook live show every Monday called Mental Health Matters with Marty. Jerron was on there last night. And this month, we are celebrating mental health workers who are the superheroes of this pandemic. And I'm bringing in brothers because we don't have folk who look like us that we can go to express that, yes, men do hurt. Yes, I think I call it the Coca-Cola syndrome that many of we men have because we've been told to shut up. We've been told to man up. We've been told not to be a punk. We've been told you don't show emotions. You've been told that that's a sign of weakness. So when the slightest problem comes and the can begins to crack, not only do we implode first, we then begin to explode over everyone else. And then we then feed into the stereotype that says, see, I told you he was nothing but an angry Black man. Well, I'm here to believe that anger is a sign of depression that so many Black men have and carry within themselves. So in that, it is my desire to help mental health services, especially among Black men, a everyday normal conversation. Can I say it this way? That we take the burden off of the barber if we gotta, we know that the barber is the therapist for the black man in the black community. Listen, I shave my head, so so I become a. But however we have to do it, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity, and that we're coming together to collaborate. However we can. It is my passion. You know, I thank God for a Taraji who is making it more known and making it more possible, and some of these other athletes and celebrities, but we cannot rest upon them to do the work. We cannot rest upon the White House to do the work. We cannot rest upon the state to do the work. We can't even rest upon the county to do the work or the state. We have to do the work. In that. So I love that we've always done things grassroots. Our forefathers, my daughter was a graduate of Tuskegee. I went to UC Berkeley and had an amazing opportunity. But in that, no one looked like me. In that, when I challenged them in the profession of that, when I was trying to become have psychology become my minor, my professor made it very clear to me, Marty. I said, yes, ma'am. I wrote the book. I said, touche. And I said, let me get my black out of this because I know there's going to be problems with that. But I never gave up on that. So with that, I host a podcast. Again, everything for me is Mental Health Matters with Marty, because too many of our men are secretly suffering in silence in the shadow of shame. But my desire is that we speak up. I speak up for myself, that we speak out for everyone else, so that we might be able to live our best lives, live the lives that we know as kings and queens we not only deserve, that we have to continue to pursue. So I'm grateful for this opportunity to do this, because no longer can we be misdiagnosed. No longer can we be misunderstood, and no longer will we be mismanaged for our own lives. I love alliteration. I feel like I have to be a three-part, give 3 points like we do in the church, y'all. You know, no good Baptist preacher don't have 3 points with that. So I thank you for this. We want to definitely make sure that we do this, and however we can be of support to Riverside County. We want to be there and make sure that even if it's money, we don't care. We do not turn anyone away. We'll shake the trees down and do whatever we have to and just continue. I always tell them, listen, they said, you can't afford therapy. I said, give me your weed money, give me your alcohol money, and give me your shake money. And we can, that will pay for your sessions. And that's how I talk to men with that as well. Because you're not going to the club for the fried chicken and the wings. You're going for something else. So give me all your make it rain money, and we'll make it rain in your brain so that you can live a healthy life. So thank you again for this. And I appreciate you. Anything that we can do at Marcel Consulting, don't ever hesitate, because we're about changing lives and changing the narrative of our lives.
Wonderful, wonderful. Boy, what a panel. Wow. Man, Linda, you assembled the dream team so far. So I think we're primed up for our next presenter. Mr. Wallace Allen, the spoken word. Let me share a little bit about Brother Wallace. Wallace J. Allen IV is the publisher of West Side Story newspaper and the host of Empire Talks, Black radio and TV shows. He's going to read us some selected pieces from his books, Mirror for Eyes, Circle One, Libra Moon. Wallace J. Allen, CEO WJAMPP Inc., a Black-owned business, West Side Story. Welcome to the floor. Thank you. I think you have to unmute yourself. There you go.
All right.
There you go, brother. There you go.
I have to claim the first part of cray cray. The first part of cray cray, I'm not going to be all the way cray cray, but if I don't be a little cray, they'll have me with that noose around my neck picking cotton. So I embrace a certain amount of mental diversity. We just don't want to go too far. But I do appreciate being here. I appreciate everybody that you guys have acknowledged and recognized. I am going to read you a few pieces. One thing that became clear to me was that I did not write poetry for the world. I wrote it to myself. This is my therapy, and I share it with you. This first piece is called Me. What do you mean, what's wrong with me? Wasn't nothing wrong with me when I left me. Now, you might have misarranged me in relocating me from me to you, but Doc, that ain't me. That's you. Certain amount of cray-cray we got to go there with. That's called What's Wrong with Me. This next piece is called Things Just Don't Seem Right. Things just don't seem right. I think a lot of people share these feelings with me, or have shared them. What's going on? I've lived and died 1,000 times to keep things from going wrong. Can anybody tell me what's going on? Shall I die or carry on? I just hope, please, don't let me be here all alone. What's going on? There's so much hate and despair clinging from things that shouldn't even be there. What's going on? Is this life I feel? Could death be this real? Maybe it'll fade away. Maybe it'll fade away if I look at it. It seems to be a maze, or is my mind still a daze from the haze of half-truths I've been presented with? Next piece is called Express Yourself, number 606, or is it 707? Anyway, do you have enough faith in yourself? Do you have enough faith in yourself to do what you know is right? Or are you just going to give in without a fight? But your goal is right here in sight. Come on and live. Forget yesterday's lie. That was just something to make you cry. Don't let those tears keep the truth from your eye. You can have everything you want. All you got to do is try. All you got to do is try. Now get on up and let's get down. Time to change the expression on the face of this here clown. Yeah, it's time for a change. It's time for a change. It's time for a change. It's time for us to be on time for a change, for a change is imminent. A change is imminent. Next piece is called What Is This Thing? What is this thing that won't let me see me the way I want to? Maybe it's somebody else's window I'm looking through. What is this thing in me? This thing in me that won't let me do what I want to. Maybe it's somebody else's thing I'm trying to do. Thing in me. Thing in me. Let me be. Let me be. Thing in me. Let me be what I want to. Let me be what I want to. Let it through. Must not be you. Must be me. Thing in me. Let me be. I will be free. I will be free. I declare myself free. I declare myself free. I declare myself free of all the things that make it hard to be a man living compatibly within the realm of God's glorious harmony. I shall reject all attempts to involve me in man's life-degrading games of sin against time and love. I refuse. I refuse to be a part of that travesty that's rotting away as far as the eye can see. No, not for me. That ain't the way life has got to be. I declare myself free. Ooh. This next piece is called Mirrors for Eyes. Matter of fact, that was the name of my second book. Well, no, that was the name of the first book, Mirrors for Eyes. Very simple little piece that we did a long time ago. Mirrors for Eyes. I now realize that I've got mirrors for eyes. I know what to do now that I know it's me that I see when I think I'm looking at you. It's easy to be understanding now that I realize it's to myself I'm handing what I thought I was giving to you. Okay. Everybody ends up wearing his own clothes. The shadow is only where the body goes. Everybody pays. It ain't a tax. You see, it's more like dues because the price, that's something your actions choose. So remember, whenever you make one, you make two. One for him and one for you. So remember, whatever you make shouldn't be more than you want to take. Because sure enough, through the arc, down the line, you bound to get what you thought was mine. I say give love, give love, give love. That piece is called You Get What You Give. This piece is called
Hello.
I Went to the Mountain. Am I too long?
Oh, bien, gracias. ¿Y usted?
No, you're good. Somebody needs to mute themselves. They're getting some background noise. You got about 3 minutes.
She did
All
already.
right. Good. This piece is called To the Mountain. I went to the mountain the other day to see if I had a miracle coming my way. See, life was growing tired. I was discouraged by deceit. But from the mountain, I felt hope surge through my feet. It moved through my body, headed straight from my heart, created a desire in me to make a brand new start. I could feel myself all over me. Boy, it sure made me feel good. Being the kind of person that I want to be, man, I feel good. I feel good. Now, anyway the ball decides to roll, I'm going to do what I must to keep control of my soul. I won't sell out, no matter what the price. I'm going to stand up straight, be my full size. No reason to bend because of the burdens they name, because from this day forth, there's no reason to play his game, because I can feel myself all over me, and it's sure making me feel good. Being the kind of person I want to be, the way I know I should, I feel good. I feel good. Now that life is mine, there's no reason to play those childish games of his yesterday. No need to live a lie. Yeah, because a lying life will just make you scared to die. But if you live the kind of life that you know you should, it can't do nothing but make you feel good. And I can feel myself all over me. It's sure making me feel good. I love you, brother. I appreciate the time. I appreciate the space. And I'll see you in the next one. God bless you. Thank you all.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Wow, inspirational words. It just kind of resonate in the soul and make you feel good. As you were saying, Brother Wallace, make
Thank
you
you,
feel
sir.
good. Make
Thank
you
you,
feel
sir.
good. Our next presenter, if you guys soaking this all in, is Mr. Dean Chambers, LCSW. Dean has been a licensed clinical social worker, been in the field of social work for over 35 years, has a BA degree in psych, a master's degree from San Francisco State University, worked in crisis intervention, has a diverse career in social work and program management, has been really focusing on high-risk populations and communities during the COVID-19 pandemic. He is currently employed as a critical care manager for Alameda County Behavioral Services in Oakland, California, does some consulting to the California Nursing Association, and has many other consulting duties. He's worked in the past with juvenile and adult rehabilitation centers, done forensic evaluations, worked with state hospitals. He's been a team leader in addressing some critical incidents and occurrences, mass shootings, related incidents throughout our communities, and actually was involved in responding to a lot of the needs around Hurricane Katrina. So without further ado, I want to bring to the table a native of East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, Dean Chambers, LCSW. Come on forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. And I just want to say thank you to Linda for having me be a part of this discussion. I also want to thank all the people on the panel for their brilliant presentations. I almost feel like I'm at the Apollo trying to follow James Brown or something, man. It's there's a certain magic that takes place when Black people get together that, and I've been working in a county system for so many years. And more recently, I've been working with COVID situations. So I've been setting up COVID sites. So this morning I was COVID testing sites. So this morning I was out at a church and we were setting up a testing site with an agency that's going to come do testing in the community. So I feel like I've been really, doing, I never like to be on the sidelines. And I got into this work. Like I said, I grew up I've been in California 45 years. I grew up in a small city outside New York and Philly. And, my dream, I knew I wanted to be a social worker when I was a psychologist when I was like 14. I think like I was talking to a guy last night, I think there's certain things that you don't choose. It chooses you, it's just in you and you got to do it. The situation I was in last night, because I'm also a professional musician, I think that's one of the things that saved me a lot of money on psychiatrists. So, but I was at the music store last night because I had my other therapy for many years has been two dogs. I rescued 2 dogs about 15 years ago off the streets, and I lost both of them about a month ago. So yeah, but and so I finally have a little more time in that sense. So I was thinking about learning a little piano because my main instrument is guitar. So last night I was in the store, the music store, and there was a brother there playing piano. So we just started talking, and he was from Detroit. He was out here visiting, and he started telling me his life was very interesting, And then as he said, "Hey man, I wrote this song. It's what happened with George Floyd incident." And he said, "I was just writing it, and when I stopped, it was 8 minutes and 46 seconds." And I said, "Oh, what's the 8 minute 46 second thing?" He said, "Well, that's how long, there was on, apparently there was a tie into the George Floyd thing, right?" So I said, "Well, wow, that's pretty deep, man. Why don't you play the song for me?" So he proceeded to play the song. And then another brother comes from around the corner and he sits down. And at first I thought he was just being rude. He was, going to do his own thing, right? The next thing I know, they're playing together and and they're playing this beautiful music together. And I just, and so we started talking and I filmed them actually. And so I was just in that moment. I know Linda and I, we talked about the presentation and how we don't want to we all know a lot of the problems and we don't want to get stuck too much on the problems. We want to today, as a therapist, as someone who's been in the field, I want to actually talk about some things, that can help us, help me, I know help other people, just some suggestions. But in that moment, I know the theme of this is beautiful Black men. And, in that moment, I was feeling so much pride and I was feeling so happy just knowing that, feeling that energy that is us, it was coming through the music. And here we are, 3 Black men that never known each other. And I felt like I knew these guys for years. And it was that kind of energy that I think that we're really all about. And somewhere, something happened, right? And we lose that. And it was conscious. It was a strategy for that, right? For us to lose that ability for us to bond. And we all know the history of slavery, a lot of the history. And one of the things I like studying the history of Haiti in the Caribbean. And one of the things I know about, we talk about Haiti as being one of the few countries that resisted slavery, right? And so in my research about, I hope I'm not condescending, but in my own personal research about that, I did find out that Haiti defeated Napoleon, right? They wiped out something like 70,000 of the greatest armies, soldiers in the greatest army. And one of the things that the reason why the Haitians were so powerful is because they shared a common language, right? So people shared a common language, and that allowed, and so I think that's what we're really talking. Music is a common language, right? So I just want to say that as before, and I'm sorry, I'm the only one who's doing a PowerPoint, and it's probably more for me because I sometimes will get off track. But so when we talk about, my title here, dealing with stress in modern times in our community, and I think about what is stress, and what do we deal with in the impact of racism. And what do we do to take care of ourselves, right? So we can go on to the next slide if the person is able to do that. Yeah. And so it was interesting because as I was thinking about putting together something for this, I realized that I already had a PowerPoint presentation from another situation I had presented at, and I decided that I did some research just from live conversations that Black men had on the street. And I'm sorry, it's not really inclusive of a whole lot of Black women putting their feedback in here, but of course, I think there's some similarity. So there was a research project in LA, and they went to a festival and they interviewed 295 African-American men at the festival. And there was like 93% of people reported stress, right? And so what does stress mean, right? Stress is a physical type of reaction that we have in our bodies. Like we all know that one of the things that can lead to weight gain in our stomach is cortisol and places like that, which is stress. Cortisol, stress produces cortisol. And oftentimes it goes to that place we don't want it to go to, which is often around our midway, around that area, and other places we don't want. So 60% reported finances and money as key factors. And of course, a lot of people reported racism as a specific cause. So I think when we talk about finances, I've been a social worker for many years, and I've done I got started doing social work in San Francisco. I've been in California 45 years. In the 80s, I got out of college. I walked right into the crack cocaine, right into that. I was living in the Haight-Ashbury, and I was living in an area called the Fillmore District, which is one of the traditional Black communities in California, which is now gentrified, of course. If you want to go, you'll find the $20 hamburgers and on, and you won't see a lot of us. In fact, San Francisco has lost more Black people, I think, than any metro area in America, in any city, because it's a very, Silicon Valley, it's very expensive. So in regard to finances, I've done a lot to try to be good at my career. I've worked in the toughest situations. I worked in the toughest neighborhoods around here. I've worked in Oakland. I've worked in prisons with juvenile. I worked in adult prisons. And, I'll see my white collar, my agency, most of it was white people working at my agency, and I'm seeing them, coming in. I'm sitting in meetings for 20 years. I'm sitting in meetings, and a lot of times I'm the only African-American male in the meeting, and recently, as I started to work with the COVID situation, I've been able to get out and work with the Black churches and everything, which has been really helpful. But I think the financial situation is that I will see white coworkers of me who have 25% of my experience getting promoted, and it's just like, and so, they say that, it's almost like the Black person with a master's degree will pretty much make what a white person with a bachelor's degree, or even they have shown that white men who just graduate from high school often make more money than Black men who go to college, right? And that's part of that system. And so the financial stresses that we have lead into other things, because we all know we need money to survive. So the racism is tied into, obviously, the finances. 60% mentioned that they perceived they knew about some resources to help. Right now, I'm getting all these people calling me. They want Black men for therapists. There's a lot of, I think because of COVID and people losing jobs, it's really brought it to the surface. And there's a big need. There is some money out there that's coming out for services. But we also know that we're not doing a very good job at doing outreach. And we also know that these situations, I'm the only Black person in meetings in my office half the time, And so a lot of people feel that when they come in for services, they're not gonna be treated a certain way. I had a health care professional. I went to my primary doctor. I think I was a little bit late one time. And he says, well, you got to pay, you're late. You got to pay the $25 late fee. I was like, wait a minute. It's like, these are the kinds of things that it's disrespectful. It's you're calling me out. I'm coming in. I'm checking in at the front desk. If anything, you should have said something in a different. So I'm the kind of person who will push back. So I think that a lot of times, we avoid services. However, when I was working at Kaiser, I did work at Kaiser Hospital for a while. I still work there. I still do some consulting with them. But I used to work on the crisis line, right? And I get a lot of Black people who call in because Oakland, we have a considerable Black population here. And a lot of times, I'm surprised that a lot of African Americans, I would always ask them, I would say, do you want a white therapist or do you want, what's your preference? Do you have a preference for a woman, a man, or a racial, cultural preference? I was surprised, most because we're such we're tolerant, we're open people, right? And it's surprising how many times I would hear people say, I just want somebody that cares. I just want someone who's really gonna listen to me and embrace me. And I think a lot of the research shows that most of us, when we walk in, and if it's a therapeutic situation, we're gonna decide if we like that person within 2 or 3 minutes, usually, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's those first few minutes that you have. And if you don't connect within, we pick up things, and we tend to be more street smart, right? So I think that's also from the trauma, because hypervigilance has been part of trauma, right? You're hypervigilant. We see things, and there's a good side to that. It's also a bad thing because it elicits these chemical responses. I live in Oakland, California. I live in, when I first moved here, I was doing a program. I was working with the police officers, and when they would get a murder case and someone in the family was killed, I would try to hook up with them and provide counseling. And I found out that my neighborhood that I moved in, which I couldn't afford to live in I wanted a new house. And my strategy was, I'm going to buy a new house because I can't fix nothing. And I'm going to, and I'll probably have to do that in an area that's not really great, and just pray that the price is going to, it's going to change. The quality of the place will go up and my house will be worth something. So when I came here, I looked at the research because I was working with the police, and it said that my block was one of the worst blocks, this area in the whole county. It was something like 70% of the people in my neighborhood, the murders around here, were done by people that knew each other, and it's stressful. And so we've had a lot of gentrification here. The average house you can't even buy a house in my neighborhood now without $1 million. It's ridiculous. We have homeless people around the corner living next to people who are paying over $1 million for homes, right? So when I talk about resources and things of that nature, there are some resources in this community. The cops come faster now, right? But when we talk about stress and hypervigilance and everything, it can affect us. We just had a big shooting here last week, and when I go out of my house sometimes, it's kind of like the radar's on a bit, because it was calm for a long time, and now we're starting to see more violence, and it affects you. It affects me. I know it affects me in a certain kind of way. But we need the resources here. I'm trying to bring in resources. I do outreach. I've been going out, giving people protective gear, and we do things of that nature. And the people have been pretty responsive. I think that most of the things in our community, 90% of the people in my community, even though it's called a pretty violent community, are very good people. And what you'll find is 10 or 15% of the people are causing 90% of the issues, right? Because we're beautiful people. We don't shoot. That's not what we do. We don't shoot each other, but we have certain elements within our community that are making it hard for some of us. And we really want our children to go out and play in the streets, jump rope, and do all these things. But it's a small minority of us that are making it harder for the rest of us. But we do need the resources in the community. And we do have a mental health clinic here. And some of the people, in fact, when I was started doing the COVID relief, started doing outreach for COVID, I found out that the people in my neighborhood wouldn't go 4 blocks to get COVID testing because there's been a battle between neighborhoods that's been raging for 30 years. So institutions that set up these systems don't understand our community. And so they set the clinic up in one area without realizing that people on the other side, just blocks away, weren't going to go over there. And that's what happens when you have a cultural disconnect and when you're providing resources, right? That was a really key thing. So at this particular festival where they did this research, they found that 43% noted religious faith as a source of help, and almost all mentioned religion and family as support systems. Many mentioned family. I know church, I'm not pushing any particular religion or anything. I just know that, I've been a musician into churches, and I haven't been an every week church person, to be quite honest, in recent times. But I do know that, that connection, I had a taste of it when I was coming up. I didn't grow up in an extremely religious family, but when I was a kid in the town I grew up, there was a church that my relatives built in 1853. It was an AME church, and my sister, the church sat for many years. They stopped using it in the 70s, and it sat for many years. And bless my sister, she took it on and fought with the town to make it a historical landmark. And even though I didn't go to that church all the time when I was a kid, when I did go, what I saw out of that was Black people who were positive, right? I saw Black men treating Black women. It was nothing about sex. It was like, oh, your electricity has a problem. Maybe they had skills to fix something. I'll be over tonight. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of country like that. I'm selling cookies, but here, take these cookies right now. Pay me later. Another person. The TV's broke. Oh, you go see Mr. Poston. He's got a bunch of TVs in his back room, and you go down and you see him, right? And so the church was that spot, and it was a place where I knew I could come and see Black people who were positive and who were very good role models for me, because I think what happens is that it's not even what I worked with a group of parents who had kids who were depressed. It was one of the things I did at Kaiser for 8 years. I stopped doing it when COVID hit. But one of the things I would tell them a lot, it's not always what we say. When we talk to our kids, they don't listen to us. They watch us. They're watching us more than they listen. And so I think that having those experiences in our community, and that's why I wanted to live in a Black community that was struggling in that sense. And when I first moved in, the main dope dealing block was right outside my backyard, and I come home, I pull my car in the driveway, the hustlers would be on the corner, and I got my little briefcase, and the young kids would look at me, and the brothers would look at me, and I'd be like, okay, the young kids, they see something different. They see me coming out. Sometimes I'm wearing a suit, I'm parking my car, and I had an automatic gate in my back house, and they'd be like, whoa, they would be so I come down the street and roll in my backyard, and they never saw an automatic gate. So they'd stand on the corner, and the young kids thought that was so cool that I was coming home and I didn't get out of my car, and I just pulled in my driveway, and it made me feel good. I always was kind of like, I wasn't really intimidated by the drug dealers, to be honest with you. it was more about their errant shooting that would scare me. You know, that the bullet would fly in a way that they didn't mean it to. But in that regard, I think that I started talking off about religious faith. We have a lot of churches in this community. They're very caring. As I said, I'm setting up COVID testing sites right now. This morning, I mentioned I was just out of church, and 2 minutes? 2 minutes, okay. So we can go on to the next slide. You know, what I'm going to bypass, I'm going to go right to some kind of things that we can do that's positive, because I only have 2 minutes. So one of the things I want to talk to, I'm going to just
go ahead and take 5 minutes, because we run a little bit early, but take 5 minutes. I want you to take your time and run through this. You got a good 5 minutes.
I appreciate that, brother. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, brother. So we can bypass this slide anyway. We kind of address some of that and go on to the next slide. And we can bypass this one. I'm trying to get to I'm trying to get right on to some of the positive things we're going to do. Let me deal with this one. One of the things about stress, we talk about haters and in the community in different places. We also someone talked about earlier about the need to be a strong Black man. You know, when we talk about men, what is that? Is there the machismo factor? I mean, a lot of us would agree there is some of that, but that's for a reason, right? Having to be extra strong happens for a reason. We talk about the lack of support people often feel, lack of funds, being in a group. One of the things I think is very powerful I really like group therapy. I think individual therapy is good, but I think group therapy is going to be a way that's really going to help heal the Black community in certain ways, because we are communal people, and we don't have a lot of people who are individual therapists who can go out. So if I have a group, I can do 15 people, and they can bond with each other and help each other, and we can get that going, right? And I'm not downplaying individual therapy. I'm just saying that our group healing is a very important process to our, to our community. Let's see, you can go on to the next slide, please. At the festival, some of the men were mentioned baby mama drama. Well, what is that? Well, I think that I was a young father, right? I had 3 children by the time I was 21. That was something I dealt with. I don't think I dealt with it the best way. I would have dealt with it if I was older and more mature. But I do think that getting out into the community and educating our youth, and not just about having kids early, but I was talking to someone yesterday about, I think it was Linda, we were talking about the health factor of being pregnant. And a lot of people don't know, just having 1 drink of alcohol when you're pregnant can really damage the brain. Just having a simple going out into the community and teaching our young people, our young women and men, these type of lessons can be very powerful. And there's a psychiatrist named Carl Bell who just passed away. He was in Chicago, and he was the mentor for Joy DeGruy, who wrote the book Post-Traumatic Slavery Disorder that many of you know. It's real interesting because Linda goes around, she teaches the post-traumatic slavery disorder, and we definitely have some of that going on. And Carl Bell is interesting. When I met him, had dinner with him. I met him through Gigi, actually, friend of Linda's. Mm-hmm. Carl's like, well, she needs to knock that stuff off. She being all catastrophic with that, And I think that comes to I understand the balance. How much do we keep want to tell ourselves we're trapped with trauma? I think it's very real that there is that element. But I also heard a brother, as he said earlier, the cavalry's not coming. We got to heal. And as Bob Marley said, I'm a musician, so I'm going to throw this out. It's a cognitive expression. He says, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. I think that's a cognitive expression, and it's very real. We can get all this information, and racism is going to be out there, but we got to free our minds, and we got to come together and work on that. So I think we all know that. The last, I think there's one more slide, maybe one or two. You can bypass that one. We can bypass that. Okay, overcoming stress. We talked about unity and support, spirituality. We've come pretty far, and that's an affirmation of our strength. I also read a quote the other day that said the purpose of racism is genocide. They haven't gotten rid of us, right? Mm-hmm. And we've in fact, we're getting stronger in some ways. You know, in some ways we have more problems, but in some ways, those of us who have had support through the years, and some of us who haven't had support, have overcome that to do some incredible things, even becoming president of America. So I only have a couple minutes left. One of the things I want to talk about is depression and anger. Anger is a good thing. Anger is a good thing when it's in check. I teach anger management at Kaiser for years, and I teach classes on how to manage depression. We teach that anger is a good thing because it's our protection gear. However, anger, when it's not managed, it eats us up, right? So there's usually two types of people. There's stuffers, where we stuff it, and there's blowers, right? So you don't want to be a stuffer or a blower. Anger is about stress. The more stress we have in our lives, the more likely we are to be angry. I don't know anyone who's going to win the lottery and get on the freeway and get mad at someone who cuts them off. It just doesn't happen that way, you know. You know, when you're doing well, you just don't get angry as much. You know what I'm saying? When your life is a little balanced. So I think that the anger thing is a lot about that. And one of the things we teach in anger, and I look for therapeutic techniques that are culturally relevant to Black people, because there's a lot of stuff out there in books that ain't relevant to us. So I'm always looking for that. But there's something in what we teach is some of the reasons. A typical profile of anger. Shoulds. You're locked in a should. You have a should in your mind. The world owes me. Fairness. The world is not fair. All legitimate issues for Black men. Change. I can make you change. I can make you change. You keep trying to change. Conditional assumptions. If you loved me, you wouldn't be like that. You're hurting me. The letting fallacy. Blamers. A blaming state of mind leads us to a lot of anger. Assumed intent. You meant to hurt me. Magnification. All, always, never. Global labeling. Always. Good or bad. These are all things that I think that we trap into. One of the last things I want to say is, I went to the Black Psychology Convention. We had the international convention here in Oakland a couple of years ago. There was a woman there who did a presentation on nature. One of the things we know that helps us is being in nature. It has a natural healing process, going out. She had, that's been my thing, because I had, like I said, I had 2 dogs, and they reintroduced me to nature because I had to get them out. And I suddenly realized that being out on the beach at 9 o'clock at night was better than being in the club dancing sometimes, you know. Dancing and body movement has been a very positive thing for people who have been sexually abused and people who have suffered trauma, for young girls to get back in their body. And it's a natural healing process, but also nature. I go out to nature all the time. I never see my people. I never see my people on the hiking trails. I never see my people at the beach. I could probably count the number of Black people. I go to run the beach at least 2-3 times a week. I go, I do see more African Americans getting into the exercise thing. We're getting in there, but we do it in the city. We often don't do it in places of nature. Last, I'll say that in regard to, we have to talk about depression. What's it mean? Not sleeping well, not eating well, eating too much, right? Shopping. People deal with depression by, it's not, some of the ways we deal with bad behavior, it ain't always just, being depressed and doing drugs. Mm-hmm. We used to teach at Kaiser. Some of the other ways we make up is called mood altering behaviors, which is shopping, gambling, right? Gambling can be worse than that. Can be a tough one. You can lose a lot of money. Sex, risky sex, So when we talk about depression, what we want to do when we heal, I think one of the hardest things for me as a therapist has been over the years is to get people to exercise and move their body, right? It's just a difficult thing. But I reached the conclusion after years of being a therapist and working with this particular issues of anger and depression that, you know, if you're not going to move your body much, you know, we really need, the brother that was on earlier with yoga, and he taught yoga. I can walk in a room of people when I do the group, and I could tell who was stressed. I had an exercise I would do. I would ask them to put your hand on your chest, and then put your hand on your stomach and breathe. People who are stressed will draw from their chest. Their chest will rise, but their stomach will stay flat. And you heard the brother earlier, he talked about pulling the air from your diaphragm. When you breathe, your stomach should rise. You should be pulling that air from down. You should be pulling your air from your stomach, right? And I teach this in disaster zones to people, and it's something I feel I can walk away and give them. And, you know, it really helps. Something just breathing, like the brother did earlier with the yoga. He had to stop and breathe 3 times. You know, we don't breathe. When we get stressed, our breathing, and that's what panic attacks are, because we biologically and neurologically and physiologically set this system off up here, which is really our fight-flight system. And it goes to our head, and our head sends the signal back to our body, and it goes boom, 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 right? And so when we teach people to deal with panic attacks, we really have to get the meditative breathing thing down. And so I know we said we didn't want to be this pathological conversation, but you know, the funny thing about it is that when we talk about burnout and stress and trauma and depression, some of the interventions, they're not rocket science, but they are difficult to get people to do. And that's it. So I'll do a quick exercise. If I ask you guys what color this piece of paper is, what would you say?
White. It looks white.
What color is snow?
White.
What does it look like? What?
White.
Yeah. What color is snow? What color is snow?
White.
What do cows drink?
Milk. I mean, they eat grass.
Someone said milk. I caught somebody.
Water.
Somebody said milk. Why do I do this exercise? Why would I do that? What am I trying to do when I do that? I'll tell you, because we don't have time. That's the principle of cognitive psychology. It's association. It's association. So if I could get you to say cows drink milk in 10 seconds, what have we associated about ourselves over 400 years of conditioning, right? So that's why I become more into cognitive psychology, because it's race neutral. I believe, like another brother talked about living in a home with domestic violence. I remember being a kid, my father used to drink, and things get nasty around there. I know that affected me because of the associative process of being in a negative situation. What are the associative processes and not only can cognitive psychology be relevant in that way, but there's also research like that repetitive associations actually get in your brain. However, positive reframing repetitive associations can actually rewire those neural pathways, right? So it's not a done deal. So we also know that one of the best interventions for Alzheimer's is to learn something new, right? You learn how to play chess. You learn an instrument as you get older. Why? Why is that good for you? You're strengthening your neural pathways. So we can do the same thing with positive cognitive psychology. We can restructure our thinking. When we say someone has, oh, you got good hair, you've already defined what bad hair is. You know what I'm saying? When the kids say, oh, you're acting white, because you get A's and B's, you're acting white. So you've already defined what being dumb is, right? You don't have to define it. You've already defined it. So I think that there's a very strong associative process that we're going through as we heal through this trauma that we have to reframe. We have to reframe our thinking. That's why I talk about emancipate ourselves, right? That whole quote. So how do we do that? We have to consciously reframe things in our mind. And cognitive psychology makes you keep a journal and think about something. Oh, well, I walked by my boss today. My boss didn't say hi to me. I said hi to my boss. So my boss must be angry with me. Well, how do you reframe that? Maybe your boss is having a bad day. You know? Or I called my best friend. I called them 2-3 times. They didn't call me back. Some disaster. Well, maybe you can reframe. Maybe you can put the brakes on, reframe. Maybe your friend didn't call you back because they're having a problem. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you need to reach out to them. Maybe just like a situation I had last week with my work, they did something and I really didn't like it, and they weren't communicating with me. One of the things we teach in anger management is get information. Get information, because if you don't get information, you will just have assumed intent. I had all kinds of thoughts in my head. Ooh, at the job, they must be mad at me. Ooh, I don't know what the director's thinking. Ooh, why are they telling me to go here and do this? So it wasn't very difficult. So I went and knocked on her door. I said, can you tell me, you guys want me to work on this project another 3-4 months? And, that's kind of cool, but like, really, what? You told me I was only gonna be there for this long, so what's going on with that? And she's like, oh, well, actually, I didn't even know about that. She said, actually, I said, can you explain to me how this decision was made to keep me in that particular situation? Because I was ready to just get angry. I'm thinking maybe I need to go get me a lawyer or something. I don't know. But I think these are the processes that take place in our lives, that when we get angry, we don't. And we know things like racism is not going to change. It's not going to change overnight. How all these, we have these white people have associative processes just like we do, right? I mean, what would you expect for someone who grew up in Nebraska who's never seen any black people? It's not right. It's not right for them to be. It's not right for them to think of me as the way that they see something on TV or something. It's not right. But at the same time, I got to kind of go, hey, they're living with that, but that's, I feel sorry for them. They grew up, that way, and I'm not going to accept it. I'm not going to necessarily accept it. I'm going to continue my struggle and do what I got to do to fight racism. But I'm not going to get caught in this rabbit hole of thinking that, oh man, I got to change them right away. They're going to change, and they shouldn't be like that. I got to be understanding, like, well, of course they're going to be like that, and I wish they wouldn't. But what can help them? We need to change these things. But I don't, and I keep saying one last thing, but this is my last thing. One of the most beautiful quotes I've heard about anger was by a man named Thich Nhat Hanh. He's a Buddhist monk. And he described anger like this. He said, if you came home and you saw your house on fire and you saw someone running out of your house, would you chase the arsonist, or would you put your house out? Would you put fire out? What would you do? And I'm making sense. We have to take care of ourselves.
Fire out. I'm gonna get a bucket. I'm gonna cut on the holes. I'm gonna do something, but I'm gonna get that fire out. Yeah, first.
That's what I'm talking about. We got to put the fire out in our soul, right? Because if we don't put the fire out in our soul and we keep chasing the arsonists, eventually our whole house is burned. We have nothing to come home to. We have no place to sleep. We have no place shelter. Now, what So I hope that I'm just hoping that image makes sense to people, and maybe you could think about it. But yeah, but I'll leave with that because I know we got other things to wrap up. But I want to thank everyone for your time, and again, Linda, thanks for having me here.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. You gave us some tactical therapeutic tools to deal with our soul, to put the fires out. That was deep. Thank you so much, Brother Dean.
Thank you.
Our next speaker before we have Q&A is Dr. Pierre Scott. Now, Linda, we moving to Dr. Scott, correct? Okay.
What if we have questions for him?
We're going to do questions at the end.
Okay, for him. Okay.
Yeah, for anyone that's presented, actually.
All
So
right.
if you don't mind just holding out just for our next presenter for 10 or 15 minutes, and there'll be another 10 or 15 minutes for questions. Okay. So Dr. Scott is a licensed marriage family therapist, staff development officer with Riverside University Health Systems, behavioral health in the area of prevention and early intervention, PEI. He completed his doctorate at Loma Linda University in marriage and family therapy, where his qualitative study focused on engaging men, optimum transformation conditions for domestic violence offenders. He serves as an adjunct professor at Valley College, where he teaches group and family dynamics and co-occurring disorders. Dr. Pierre Scott, please. Thank you so much.
It's good to be with all of you today. And thank you so much, Dr. Chambers and everybody else for just a wonderful presentation. I'm here basically to talk to you about resources, especially that the county has. I have a question for you, especially the men, but everyone can do this. I just ask everyone to take out a piece of paper and a pen. I have about 6 questions for you. They're not long, but just take out a piece of paper and a pen. And when you have that done, just put a thumbs up in the screen. See, people are still reaching for paper and pen, so.
I'm good.
You're good. Okay, well then we'll go then.
Yeah, I got tech problems here, but okay.
It's all good. Okay. Where were you? Where were you when you watched the video of Ahmaud Arbery being trapped on his run and ruthlessly gunned down? Just write that down. Where were you when you watched the 8-minute and 46 minute video of George Floyd needlessly dying with a knee to his neck? Next question, and I'm going to ask you to circle this one. What did you feel? Just write down the feeling. You can, maybe there's more feelings, but I want you to write down what you felt. Next question, what past feelings did it remind you of? And it doesn't have to be racism or anything like that. Just maybe it's feelings of abandonment. Maybe it's of loss. Maybe it's of hurt, disappointment, rejection. Doesn't have to be the exact feeling that you had in that moment while watching the video, wherever you were, but maybe what past feelings does that remind you of? And next to some of those feelings, if you can just kind of write, what experience accompanies those feelings. So maybe for some of you, if say, for example, maybe it was of a divorce, maybe it was a sexual assault, maybe it was bullying at work, maybe it was of a domestic violence incident, maybe it was being discounted by a parent. Maybe it was being unaccepted by your spouse sexually rejected, maybe. So just write in what experience accompanies those feelings. For this next question, I want you to write down, who did you talk to about those feelings, if anyone? So I want you to circle that question. But who did you talk to about those feelings? So those specific feelings, not general, specific feelings. Who did you talk to about those? One. And if it was no one, just put no one. And if you said no one, put why not. And then for the final question, who do you wish you could have talked to about those specific feelings? Who do you wish you could have talked to? And then maybe make a special little note about why you would have wanted to talk to that person. Men are made, not born. And that's, as researcher Michael Kimmel says, and that's really kind of hard for us to wrap our minds around, because usually we say you're born a man. I mean, that's how it usually goes. Come on, be a man. Men are made and not born. Research by black male grief researcher, and many of you probably attended his presentation last week, Dr. Alan E. Lipscomb, suggests that black men really move towards a forced acceptance, when they're grieving, a forced acceptance of loss, autonomy, of loss of differentiation and individuation. Basically, it's like acceptance of what it means to be a black man, acceptance of what it means to be a man as defined by society. And that depression, fear, trauma is part of the deal. And you swallow it whole and you take it, especially if you're a man, a black man. Acceptance that life is what it is. Many of us grow up with this. This is something that you watch other people. We're socialized to it. Granddad did it. Dad before, everybody in the family does it. You see people on sports, they do it. This is what it is. Don't be soft. And I guess, the society does give us this sort of part where we get a flex and we, show who we are, right? But there's only one thing that's a problem, is that the body doesn't lie about this. It remembers, and it has a way of seeping out. On the next slide, this is how. Talk about this in the adverse childhood experiences. And as you can see here, many people who experience trauma in childhood are affected. The thing is that it expands. It goes on, and many of you all know this. You have seen the research about the ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and it increases the risk, right? So that means that the more stuff that we're not dealing with, if we're just forcing ourselves to accept that life is what it is, the feelings that we have, like the feelings that you wrote down in the previous questions, that if you just swallow those things whole and you deal with it, that you'll be okay. The only problem is that these things tend to seep out. I don't know if you've ever tried to hide you know, when someone's gone to the bathroom and blown it up pretty badly, someone thinks like it'll just, you know, if you close the door, it will stay there. That's not really the case. The smell gets out. And so the thing is that you look at this, and this is how it seeps out into our lives, right? The risk of intimate partner violence, domestic violence, multiple sexual partners, right? I mean, Barack Obama has a nice way of saying this when he was like one of the foundations. He was like talking about, you know, he's like talking about to Black men, or, you know, especially, you know, just like, why do you got to have, like, you know, in the video or something like that, like 6 girls twerking all around you? He says, you when I see that, you look stressed, is what he said. And this spills out. We learn these things. Sexual transmitted diseases, smoking, suicide attempts, unintended pregnancies, early initiation of smoking, early initiation of sexual activity, adolescent pregnancy, alcoholism and abuse, COPD, that's chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, depression, fetal death, health-related quality of life, which goes down, illicit drug use, heart disease, and liver disease. All these things, none of these things give life. None of these things do. They take life away. And if we're just accepting our feelings sometimes the way they are and just figuring that we don't need to talk to anyone about it, this is the result that can happen. So what do we do about these things? In our next slide, Brene Brown, a researcher, one of the foremost researchers on vulnerability, she says that vulnerability is the greatest measure of courage. And that is one of the toughest things for us as men, Black men especially, is to be vulnerable and to be able to say, this is what's up, this is where we are and who and what's going on in our lives. Well, and it also prevents us from dealing with the symptoms and things that we saw on the slide ahead, that we just passed, right? That vulnerability, if we don't step into it and we're afraid that what if someone judges us, what if someone knows and sees that we're struggling, that we will be trapped. But it's actually contrary, right? That vulnerability gives us a better understanding of who we are inside. It gives us ability to know how to read situations and people correctly. That's what we want. That's why we turn towards mentors. That's why we turn towards each other, is to be like, hey, help me out, man. I don't got this. Help me understand what I need to do, or help me strengthen my position. Lack of vulnerability, stress, depressed, insecure, right? Decreases our mental health. These types of things. And so the thing is that my encouragement to you and to all of us is to be able to take this on and to be able to say, I'm willing to step into vulnerability and to get the help that I need. I'm willing to be able to be real about the feelings that I wrote down in those previous questions and to say, this is what's up. I'm willing to deal. So to do that, we have some resources available. And in our next slide, there are some things that are some helpful apps, like Headspace. I don't know if you all have seen that, but it is an app that is very helpful to walk you through just a bit deep breathing. Like Calm is another one. You have seen that one, probably with LeBron James. He talks a lot about that one. Aura, which is available. Stop, Breathe, Think. It's another app that's very helpful sometimes just to be able to go on the go. Insight Timer, Liberate Meditation, which is really specific for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And then, of course, there's the Abide app, which is a faith-based experience of peace through Christ and biblical meditation. So these are some things that might be helpful, useful resources. I would like to also, in our next slide, to be able to draw you to the resources that we have here at the county for the prevention, early intervention. As you see them here, you know, the National Suicide Hotline, you could call the Crisis Text Line, which is also available. The Riverside County Helpline, which is has a lot of services that can be available for crisis support. Now, I would like you to know, like the Riverside County Helpline, which is a distinction between the Suicide National Hotline, is that if you call the Suicide National Hotline, you will be transferred immediately to, like in this area, the call center is in LA. If you call this number, the Riverside County Hotline, it's more local. And so you're able to have that number is more localized to the resources here in Riverside County, so that they can get you better lined up with the resources here. There's also the CARES line, which is a great resources for Medi-Cal and beneficiaries seeking mental health services, the 211 number, which has referrals for health and social services throughout Riverside County. We also have the Family Advocate Program, and the very good programs that for people who understand mental health, and also other caregivers that have had serious mental illness. And so the primary function of the Family Advocate is to assist family members in coping with illness of their loved one with information, education, and support. And additionally, also providing assistance to family members in interaction with service providers and the mental health system. And Family Advocate, family advocates are also themselves sensitive to the concerns of family members, because they also too have gone through it, and it's located through all regions of Riverside County. There's also the helpline, which is support for essential workers, so to call that number. Then there's the Take My Hand. Maybe you have youth, or maybe you feel like this is a better opportunity for you, just feel like, I would like to do it through chat. The number is takemyhand.co. There is no typo, there's no M there. It's called takemyhand.co, and it's a peer chat service, and it's from 8 to 5 p.m. And then, of course, we have the mental health urgent care services throughout Riverside County, so Riverside, Palm Springs, and then also Paris, and those services which are available. And then if we go to our next slide, you can be able to see that we have a prevention, early intervention bulletin that has a lot of different resources. So I'd encourage you to go to PEI at ruhealth.org and to contact them if you'd like one. There's a range of programs from babies to older adults. So everything that you get in between the entire lifespan. So the issue is not to wait for things to get bad, but to do something about it now. Several of the programs that PEI offers really, and I won't go through all of them, but Seeking Safety, which helps, working on people who are struggling either through some traumas or addictions, to be able to to help them find a better way to stay on to prevent those things from happening. Stressing Your Mood, which is also a great program to dealing with depression. The resiliency focused programs that we have, such as Building Resiliency in African American Families, which is a program that I oversee, which is looking at working with boys and girls ages 11 to 13 and their families to be able to address the problems of mental health that arise not necessarily just out of everyday life, but also problems that arise from racism and discrimination, and working with their families to be able to be holistic and to be able to help change their communities for the better. We also have the Strengthening Families program, which also has 14 weeks in terms of working with families in the Triple P program, which is the positive parenting practices, and the Mamas y Bebes program also. We also have suicide prevention programs. There are at least three major ones that we have. Know the Signs, 1 and a 1.5 hour training that helps, and we do that virtually right now. Our Safe Talk, which is not currently being held, but will be when the things open back up, are available. The Assist program, which is Applied Suicide Intervention Training Skills, which is 2 full days, and that helps people who are having thoughts of suicide and how to intervene. And then we have the Adult Youth and Mental Health First Aid program that is available. And then of course, if you are interested in knowing more about yourself and want to sign up for things, I would encourage, especially all of us today, if you were to start somewhere to be able to, and I'm going to give you a call to action here in a little bit, is to be able to participate in maybe a virtual training, such as Mental Health 101. It's not a very long training. Most trainings average from an hour and a half to 2 hours. And this is a Mental Health 101, which covers understanding mental health and versus mental illness, among the health spectrum, the stigma reduction, and understanding risk and protective factors. We also have self-care and wellness, about how to understand and meet your self-care needs and why it's important and how it impacts our mental health and well-being. And then building resiliency and understanding trauma, which will teach us about how trauma impacts the body and the individual. And of course, we talk about what I just shared with you, which is the adverse childhood experiences, and also how that has an impact in the lifetime of the individual. Doesn't mean that things will be bad for you, but it does give you some warning signs to let you know what is on its way. And then here, the last slide, you can be able to see we have some organizations for you to contact, such as NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And throughout the United States is a advocacy group founded by really a grassroots group of family members of people diagnosed with mental illness. And so many of you probably are familiar with them. And then suicideispreventable.org, where you can find more information about suicide and defining the words to help reach out to people. Each Mind Matters, which is our state partners, California Mental Health Movement, who you can find resources and initiatives to get involved and reduce stigma related to mental illness. And then, of course, Up to Riverside, Sentamente, which is the Spanish version, and then Up to Riverside, which is our local campaign that has its resources on supporting people with mental illness and finding ways to care for your mental health and suicide information. What I would like you to do as we wrap up here is that see the questions that you circled on your paper. Look at the questions that you circled. And especially if you're a Black man here on this, or just any man really, on this this Zoom call here, that especially when the last question of who would you have liked to talk to during the, and who did you talk to, if anyone at all? If you put there was a person you would have liked to talk to, especially if that person's living, or there was a person that you wish you could have talked to or wish someone would have talked to you, I would like for you to take advantage of that opportunity, not right this second, but after we're done here. Linda has put, will be sending each one of you who subscribed with a link an email address that will have you to be able to respond to a group that will ask you three basic questions, I think, but it will go along the lines of, did you talk to someone about your mental health? Just had a conversation. Doesn't have to be you went into like, oh, I'm feeling terrible, but just an honest conversation about mental health. Have you talked to someone about it? Your feelings about what's going on? Did you do it? And if you did, how was it? So we want to know. If we're serious about this, then you will realize that we are our greatest resource. Yeah, I mean, because if we acknowledge that, then we can take advantage of all the other resources that are available to us, that we as a community of people can handle that, so that all the feelings that you wrote down earlier don't get stuck inside and then leak out later in a destructive way. That whatever that you wrote down can be used in terms of resilience to motivate people as we go along. That the vulnerability is our strength. That the vulnerability is a measure of courage. That the vulnerability that we show by sharing is saying to the other man that's next to you, I see you, and it's me too. That you're not alone in this. Men are made, not born. Being made, being chosen, that's powerful. So you have something to do. You can choose to do it, and to be able to help shape the men around you, because the thing is that they may be looking to you. And if you're vulnerable enough to share, you may have just saved a life or even helped that person to be able to, you might just even have helped yourself. If you choose not to do it, you're only putting yourself on an island, I'll be blunt. And I would prefer to see us all get there together. It makes a difference. Thank you for your time. And I turn it over back to the MC.
Thank you, 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 thank you. Wow, what a day, what a day. I think at this point, Linda, we're at the 4 o'clock cutoff time, but we need to have some Q&A. So do you want to have 5 minutes of questions? What's your, direction, Linda?
Sure. Let's give everyone an opportunity to, at least if they have any questions, to do that. If Zoom will allow us. But yes, we can do that.
Okay. So you're leading the Q&A, correct? Because I don't see.
Well, what you basically want to do is anyone who have any questions,
Okay.
address to anyone who presented today, then that person can have, a 1 minute to give a response.
Okay. So are they posting questions through the chat or?
If she would allow everyone to unmic, then they can just quickly answer because to look at that would spend extra time. So if she can unmute everyone, and whoever would like to ask a question could do so.
Please.
So if there's any questions.
I don't have any questions. I just want to say, Linda, you did such an outstanding job. Thank you so much for bringing this to our community, for loving our Black men. And thank you to all the presenters. I mean, so much great information, so many nuggets. And just thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, I'm Valerie. I'm Linda's Hart sister. And my question is to the men on the panel. How can I be helpful for the Black man that, has mental health problems?
Hi, Valerie, this is Jerron Clark, one of the panelists. One of the things you can do to help any Black man who you feel may have mental health issues is to seek out some resources for them, or just ask them a simple question. Check in with them. Ask them, how are you feeling today, brother? What is it that you need? How can I help you? That's a good place to start.
Okay, thank you.
And just for the sake of clarity, I think someone has a TV or some audio in the background. If you might want to mute yourself there. Thank you. Next question. Someone just asked, will the presentation be available on YouTube link?
We did record it. I don't know.
That would be nice.
That would have to be after a follow-up discussion. I don't want to say yes. We'll have that conversation, but it has been recorded from my understanding.
Yes, it has.
I have a question, if that's okay.
Certainly.
Thank you. I think it's for the folks who are therapists, and there's so many Black therapists. My question is, how do you navigate what you learned in school that doesn't work for Black folks, and integrating what works for Black folks in how you serve them? And I hope that question makes sense. Like, how do you kind of walk that balance of knowing what's culturally competent, even if it may be not what you learned in school?
This is Marty speaking. I think a lot of times we take, just like on any profession, you take what you get your traditional learning in school, and then you shape it and groom it to what you need and what's relevant for your clients at hand. I'm a part of a couple different networks. I am a part of a group called Black Male Therapists, and there are about 800 of us on that. Jerron is a part of it as well. And we actually support each other when we have questions, especially when it deals with Black men, that we come together and have roundtable discussions about, and so that we can kind of develop what I'm calling our best practice, if you will, with dealing with Black men. And we share resources. We use each other as sounding boards and be like, hey, I got stuck, brothers. What do you think? And we just get and support each other with that type of information. And I try to be, like Dr. Scott had said earlier, vulnerable. And there's a level of transparency that I think has to happen, because in our communities, we share stories. And when I know that we have a common bond, I'm finding it, the therapeutic process can begin. And even with my Black clients, male clients, I don't come at them, especially those who are athletes, as their therapist, but as their coach, because a coach can yell at you, because we understand a coach is trying to pull the best out of us. And my job is to pull the best out of them. So I hope that answered your question.
Amazing. Thank you.
I have a question. Okay. Are there any support groups for Black men? Because I know, I'm not quite sure who it was that was saying group therapy is really good, but are there any like support groups? I know NAMI has a listing of support groups, but are there support groups for Black men in the area?
Hi, this is Jerron Clark speaking. I know of one organization particularly for Black fathers, and I believe it's Fathers for a Brighter Future. It's founded by LaHenry Solomon, who is an LMFT in the Los Angeles area. So that's one organization that you can look up, Fathers for a Brighter Future.
And if I may, just quickly, what I want to say is we did some research, and it was very hard to find any support group specifically for Black men. So we're taking that to the stakeholders meetings at the various different county levels to incorporate funding to address issues relating to Black men. So this is where advocacy and being part of the stakeholdership, when they are talking about how to redirect funds. So this is definitely something that I have mentioned to someone that I am personally going to take up at the commissioners meetings, make sure that there is funding to make that happen.
Yeah, it would be good if the churches had support groups, right? The African American churches, if we could maybe the faith-based community partner with Riverside University and maybe have that type of collaboration to have support groups there.
Yes, absolutely. So that is part of our plan. We just got approved to bring on a cultural consultant that deals with spirituality or faith-based. And so that's part of our plan, and we'll be in search of a person to head that in this month, sometime this month. So that's the part of the plan, and we do want to look at faith-based communities and partner with them. I know that there's already a church in Paris who's interested in being a part of it, and so we are building those inroads now.
Yeah, I would like to also mention, this is Jim, going back to our Reducing Disparities report, the California Reducing Disparities Project and African American Health Institute of San Bernardino County was one of the leaders for producing the report, We Ain't Crazy, Just Coping with the Crazy System. Dr. Diane Woods, Dr. Carolyn Murray, Dr. Nikki King, Suzanne Midori, myself, Linda, other folks that were on the call today, participated in that 379-page report. Okay, it has a lot of resources, a lot of community-defined practices identified for African Americans and people of African descent. We basically interviewed over 3,000 folks throughout the state of California. So those model programs are listed in that report. And you can find that report probably through Linda, but you can also go through the California Pan-Ethnic Health Network. You can go through the Department of Public Health in California. It's sort of the blueprint to pursuing model programs and actually soliciting funding. We spent years doing that. And so that launched phase 2, which the state basically funded 40 programs. We know that's not enough, but someone was talking about more funds are becoming available for African American, Black, or people of African descent because of the pandemic and other issues of violence and deaths. So if you want to do some research and look at recruiting and soliciting funding, I would suggest you go back, particularly if you're a student or a program director, and using that as a resource so you can advocate for funding through the Mental Health Services Act right in your local community, because every year the counties are awarding MHSA funds for programs, and you can be involved. But it takes not one, it takes a group of us to advocate locally. Linda's been doing it down in San Bernardino area for years. Others have been doing it. But if we can do that collectively, we can get those resources targeted to our communities. You deserve it. We need it. Let's go get it. That's the call to action that I would advocate for out of this today.
Yeah, if I could add something about groups, I love groups, and I think they're really valuable, and I think they're going to be a critical way to provide more services in the Black community. One thing I would have to say is that a lot of therapists aren't really trained in group therapy. You know, a lot of therapists train and they do individual, and the dynamics change a lot when groups. And so I think you just want to, I'm not saying they always have to be super experienced, but they should have, hopefully some experience. And then it's really good to have co-facilitators. So it's really good to have 2 therapists or 2 people who are running the group, because sometimes, again, a lot of us have a lot of stuff inside and they don't come. And then if somebody really has a hard time, they may need to leave the group, go outside, and then you have someone with you that can go, accompany that person. So that's something I always learn from crisis group stuff. But the other thing is, I think there's a lot of people who are just resistant to therapy for all the reasons we mentioned, right? We're just, Peter Bell said one thing about one of the reasons why a lot of African Americans when we come into therapy, we look really bad because we have a high threshold for pain. So we set the threshold really high because we have, in some ways, we have to out of our survival, right? So by the time we come in, we carry this pain, and I think when you talk to people, one thing I learned from doing work, sitting in a lot of 12-step groups when I was in the juvenile justice system, is to tell someone who might be resistant to going to groups, say, hey, you know what? You can just sit there and you don't have to talk. Let them know that if they're not a real talker, and tell them one of the things they say in NA, they say, if you come long enough, you're going to hear your story. And I think a lot of time, one of the benefits from a group is that you get to other people, you get to see other people role model vulnerability. Yeah. So if you get 10, 15 men in a group, someone's going to be okay with speaking and opening up. Right. And so the people who aren't so okay with that will then start to feel like, oh, it's almost like role modeling. They can see that and they can, I feel it.